Welcome everyone to another live stream today. Today I wanted to talk that every second, about 50% plus minus a few give or take of our Macs, which were plenty over the last decades, had a serial defect warranty, extended warranty program. So like they were manufactured in a way that they broke by itself without even us doing much. Actually, I started to live stream, first live stream, somehow didn't go live. You see, I have here some more Macs. I will show all the Macs in detail. Not all, we had just some that I have left over here. So stay tuned here for many defect Macs in the camera. And don't forget to share, like and subscribe to not miss any of our amazing tech streams and videos. Why do I do these videos? So initially I brought an iBook, which I don't have anymore, but I will show some PCB in a second and all the history. So we had many Macs. Initially 2003, I said it often enough, I personally got into Macs, iBooks, PowerPC back in the day for PowerPC Linux, and then accidentally we ended up making Mac software, and this is how over 2 decades we had over 20, if not over 30 or something like that Macs. And every 50%, you can't tell me Apple is outstanding, at least not anymore, if 50% of their devices have come with defects and fail within usually even their warranty period. Welcome Danny, by the way, and everyone else who hopefully will join soon. Much appreciated. So why do I make these videos? In the meantime, I couldn't care. I moved on. I'm soon with ThinkPads. I have here Octanes and whatever nice Ryzen builds. But they are still believers, and I don't want that people waste their money, and I also want to influence and educate. And certainly if Apple want to survive their second time where they might be struggling soon, of course right now they still have billions, but who knows how long this will last. So why do I make these videos? Not only do I see all this stuff is failing and breaking, also other Apple fanboys. Look at this, Daring Fireball, one of the greatest Apple fanboys, writes here on Twitter, or actually on his blog, wrote on his blog, posted on Twitter. Apple still hasn't fixed its MacBook keyboards, and I quoted here, should have the best keyboards in the industry, instead they are the worst. They are doing lasting harm to the reputation of the MacBook brand. As I say, no work, and so this is a quote of him, and I add here, as I said, no working keyboard, no soldered SSD glued in battery, and I made videos about this. No headphone jack, no buy. And then of course comes the usual Apple fans, and this is why I have to make this video. I wanted to do this already for quite some time, and today is a good day for this as any other. And these people really get on my nerves. Literally no one cares, he writes, this Jeffrey Paul. Literally no one cares about opening the laptop. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously, what is wrong with you? First of all, if you don't want to open it, then don't open it. But let us IT professionals and users who want to fix, service and repair and upgrade something in peace. If you, what I answer in a second, if you want to buy buy a ThinkPad, yeah, no shit Sherlock, guess what I'm recommending here. Macs are single objects and they work better that way. It's like complaining that you can't tow a trailer with your 2-door Roadster. I mean, first of all, you can't tell me these are the most outstanding pro machines and then compare it to towing a 2-door trailer with a 2-door Roadster. I mean, either these are professional machines or they are not. And if they are professional machines, then professionals can also expect, not everyone, but professionals. And you can't say these are pro machines. And by the way, on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, which you probably, maybe I should leave Twitter, as much negativity and Apple shit I have to read there. Sometimes I get there an argument with these Apple fans about their reality distortion field. And today I will prove them wrong and educate and influence here. And if you look here on the, and this is only the current list. So here's a list, and this is only the current list of, which by the way I should probably screen capture like this, exchange and repair extension programs, and this is only the current list. This is only, Apple is so smart, the list would be long. I actually was Googling before the video, trying to find a list of all. Actually I thought maybe Wikipedia or someone, I've not with 10 minutes of Googling found a list, maybe they exist. And this long list is only the current list of repair programs, not even the past. And I will show you the past now, and we talk about all these details, and I hope you like to see any of those. So here is a non-comprehensive list of our Macs, and this is only what I've left over. This is not all. So starting with the Cube. And the Cube, so the Cube, I said this, and by the way, many of the things I said already on this live stream, and I will repeat it over and over again. So this Cube I got it second hand. Thankfully I could not afford back in the day. I was a student and such, and I liked it for my collection here. And mine, thanks God, although it's highly upgraded, I have a, and by the way, so much to upgradability. This small Cube is maxed out. It came with 450 or 500 megahertz CPU. I have here a 1.2 gigahertz CPU upgrade card in there. I upgraded this to an SSD with a serial ATA bridge to parallel ATA and maxed out the memories. Even this has 3 memory slots in this Cube. You can even service it here, turn it around, slightly inconvenient, pull out the handle. I made a video about this, don't want. If I show this all on this video, it will become too long. You can watch my Cube video for that. And the serial defect on the Cubes, which my thankfully does not have, is this polycarbonate case gets hairline fractures here, where the 2 plastic pieces are molded together. Mine does not have this because we treat all our stuff amazingly, but many Cubes have this. And if you want this in your collection, this is one of those things you probably want to look out for. However, this top-loading CD, you have seen this in my video, this is not top-loading nicely, so this is also something I need to service and repair. A common fault, obviously this rubber bends, wear out and stretch and such, and just the usual design and construction issues with Apple stuff. We could maybe go through here in chronological order. The next Mac, actually this Mac I did not have, but going here through in chronological order. As a proof that I had this Mac, you can take a look on our, actually also working on focus here more than usual, probably we should. And so this is our T2 list with our T2 Linux, as you know, Linux developer here, having a Linux distribution. And actually this is not the next, where is, maybe I should not have closed it then. iBook G3. So this was not this toy here. Just need to check what I'm showing you on camera. So I didn't have this toy. I hated completely this look, totally Barbie kind of look. Completely hated this. Although some people like it. I think Tom Welder from OS News or something. Strange taste, but whatever. I had this here. I liked this very much when I was a student 15 years ago or something. This G3, and here's a proof I had this. This is the CPU info from the one I had. 700, actually why is it saying 400? Did I not have something like 800 or what? Maybe this was frequency scaling, or at 400, no idea. Or maybe I even had 2, maybe I had, maybe, you see I had so many Macs, I have it even hard to remember now. I need to check if maybe I had 400 megahertz and then sold it on eBay and brought then 750, whatever the details were. Whatever I had, but this is at least at some point I had this machine, because usually this CPU info stuff here on our T2 website came from me. And the serial defect on this one was they had a GPU problem, either so they stopped working with graphic glitches, and while I do not have this, I don't have this Mac anymore. Where is I don't have this Mac anymore, but I have some leftovers. I sold mine, so I have here most parts of the Mac in a bag that I moved already with me through Berlin. I moved a couple of times, so this is from my friend's Mac. 14 inch. I had probably I had 12 inch, I think, or something, or maybe I had 2 different, whatever. And so this is here, so a Mac in a bag just for the fun of it, that I don't mix this shit up. And I have this because we repaired this here once, and here's the logic board, and maybe, and I did not fake this here. I did not just get this here from eBay to fake this video. My friend will attest here that this is his Mac. Maybe now that he sees this video he wants it back. But maybe then I need to charge for storage and transportation. Dragging this with me here 15 years through Berlin. And maybe we could try, so this is, you see, Mac also even here, socketed modem card, 1 memory slot or something like that. Actually, maybe this is memory soldered and this. And so the point serial defect, this stuff here is unsoldering, cracking solder bolts or whatever. It's seeing Louis Rossman's video. Maybe this is even some capacitor underdefined and whatever. So this is a serial defect on those. I don't even remember the history of mine. So the problem is my friend often was not the most engaged to go to the Apple service, and at that time there was no Apple store in Berlin. So he usually delayed such defects a little bit because this we resoldered ourselves. So we have reflown this once and it worked. After reflowing this, we didn't even have good tools. We did this completely amateurish as a student because we didn't have a hot air station and such. So this worked for another month or 2 after reflowing it, and then it broke again. And since then I have this Mac in the back. Also, I think another serial defect, just to prove you the point here, and maybe theoretically we could, the problem is I don't have a matching battery or power supply. This was a really stupid power supply, probably the power supply, because it's using a Cinch plug for power. I don't have this power supply here anymore. Whatever. I only wanted to underline the point, because if I do not show you here the details, maybe the display we can use for an embedded project or something, if it still works. And that people believe me. By the way, super portable Mac comes in a bag. You can just reassemble it yourself at your local Starbucks or something. And if I don't hold a PCB in the camera here, people will just say I make this shit story up. No, I don't make this story up. This is pure fact, and people around me can attest here that I'm not telling you random bullshit, and we will continue going through here. And another thing, I think the case broke, not mine, because I was usually very careful. I also don't remember the history, so if I had 1 or 2 of those, don't remember precisely, but whatever, I had 1 or 2, I sold them on eBay because as a student I needed the money. Still got some good money for this. After the warranty repair program, probably also it only had USB 1, and USB 1 was then in 2004 or 5 something not the most amazing. So I sold it because I needed something faster. By the way, after this I probably didn't got a Mac anymore because I didn't like the aluminum PowerBook stuff. What I got then was a PC, an AMD 64, here this MegaBook something just for the 100. By the way, also not the most amazing, was quite hot and loud, but it was 64-bit for our AMD 64 T2 Rock Linux work, obviously. But continuing with the Mac stuff, then eventually I got a new Mac also because we did Mac software. So one of the next Macs I got then was, and by the way, my brother also had quite some Macs, so my brother also had a PowerBook. The PowerBook also had the same graphic issue, I think, cracking, BGA soldering or something. And my brother also sold it because he didn't like that he got electroshocks, this electric fist that I usually talk about here. Just need to rearrange the camera a little bit. And you're back. Yes, I'm back because this Twitter of Apple fanboys pissed me off too much. And if you piss me off too much, then I go live here with another live stream. And also for my customers, if Exact Scan customers go on my nerves with some bloody bullshit, then I just close the email and live stream here. This is our own mental self-help group here. Then what I got, I waited a little bit. I didn't get the first Intel Macs because the first Intel Macs were only Intel Core Solo or something. They were only 32-bit. And the funny thing is, another friend of mine is composer, and back in the day, 2005 or when that was, he asked me whether he should buy a Mac, and I advised him to wait a year or something for the 64-bit Macs. But of course, this regular people had to buy it then, and then he was disappointed rather quickly after a year or 2 that the latest software was not running amazingly on the 32-bit Mac and stuff like this. So much sums up Apple for selling your first Intel Macs with totally amazing state-of-the-art 32-bit Intel CPU, but whatever. Then I got here this MacBook. This was not my primary one. I have 2 of those. So much to how much Macs did I had And people on Twitter don't believe me. I speak with experience of having owned 20, if not 30 Macs, especially for co-workers and such in my company. And of this I even have two, but I can only show you one because the other one is at my mother-in-law and I probably should get it back just for the collection here. The security updates are long out and such. So the serial defect on this one is here, and by the way, this is brand new. Why does this look so good here after so many decades? Because this top case is brand new. Thank you, Apple, for replacing it twice. Not once, but twice, because hairline cracks here. This is already this tesa, or how your English and Americans are calling it, probably Scotch tape or something. Under this Scotch tape here is a hairline crack, and this was replaced twice, and on the second replacement, this hairline crack, so this is not me, this was everyone had this, because this plastic border here at the edge is completely thin, the 1/10 of a millimeter, and this is completely normal, even if you completely amazingly use it like with protective cases like all the Apple fans have. This breaks, this cracks after a year or two. And how can you design and manufacture stuff like this? And you do not do this once. Each Apple product has serial defects like this. And why should I, after 20 years and 30 Macs, why should I still buy your products with defects? And I think probably this also had some overheating and probably as usual some whatsoever. But this was also extended. I think I got even 4 years old hairline cracks replaced, and on some machines twice. So both of my black, and by the way, these are rare, as they had black and white. And why did I buy black? Because I like black more. I really wonder why Apple is not for 20 years sold more black machines. And this is why I ended up having two here in my collection of old company stuff. And yeah, both had their top case replaced because hairline cracks. And I do not make this shit up. You see, this is, and I certainly did not go to eBay and buy this overpriced vintage stuff just for the video. Then more serial defects, because you can never have enough products with defects. This is my non-unibody MacBook Pro. I used this also some good 5 years. So this is first hand from me. By the way, you see, this looks amazing. Not really much scratches here. I never liked this bloody ugly plastic border here, but that's what you get from the most outstanding design, Apple, apparently, whatever. And by the way, extendability, battery, you swap it. Memory, you open here 3 screws and can swap memory. Hard drive is a little bit more extensive, but whatever. And what is the serial defect on this one? Well, on this one they did not manage hairline cracks, but they have this overheating. I mean, general, all of them are overheating and thermal throttling, obviously, because Apple. And the serial defect, again, BGA cracks on the NVIDIA GPU, so this one was swapped. I had this. Don't make this up. This is, and by the way, seeing Louis Rossmann's videos and how Apple repairs them, what I was really pissed back in the day, not only was I already then, this was maybe my 10th Mac in 2005 or something, with my company just starting. And by the way, I only brought this, I did not even like this. By the way, this bezel was relatively thin, which I like. Why did I not like this? I hated this aluminum always, because often it gave me electroshocks. I don't like there is this fizzling electroshit, and this is usually not in Berlin. Do not tell me my electricity shit. No, not in Berlin. Usually in Spain, France, Russia, UK, USA, Russia, Taiwan, China, you name it. I don't know what is wrong with electricity, but maybe Apple should also design their power adapters so that they do not give some medium voltage electric fizz there on the case. So I never liked this case. I only got this because I needed more horsepower, and in our company 2005 extra code was super small. I needed machines to test, so not only did I need more horsepower for development, we also needed another Mac to test, not to have only the same polycarbonate Mac. And again, and now you have two phones, and then you can get two calls at the same time here. Two phones ringing just with the new Galaxy S10. Why should people check if I YouTube live stream? And then this is what, when we are live on YouTube, obviously. So this is when we are live on YouTube, obviously, get phone calls. And this is what pissed me really off with this one. I knew it was thermally throttling and overheating, and when I got it back, it had they swapped the whole logic board, and I need to check another day. Not sure if by the way, actually I should probably advise nobody, window free about 7 years, I should probably have switched to the other camera. So much to operating here. I need to check here with this hardware listing, because I got it back with another Intel CPU. It had another stepping. Of course, usually normal Joe users don't. Thanks for the Devin V is donating a little bit to make up for the stream he missed. No worries, you can just watch it. And of course, normal users don't notice this, but I need to check if I have recorded this. So because this is a hardware listing of obviously these machines, because I don't make this up, not purchased new old stock from eBay. No, I had this here laying around a decade or so. And you have seen I probably used this in another video too. So I had this already the whole years here on live stream. And I got this back. I need to check if this is my new or old stock stepping here, because you see here CPU, family, model, and stepping. These are the CPU internal numbers. And I need to check. What I know is when I got this back, it had slightly worse performance. Maybe they also applied thermal compound shitty. And maybe they applied this thermal compound in a crap way, but not sure if it's a thermal compound or the stepping, because I was really pissed. I got this back, and somehow, maybe because it overheated more, I don't know, relatively quickly, and maybe by coincidence, because I had this recorded here on the T2 hardware listing, it was another stepping. So either this stepping 11 here on this hardware listing, so either I had before, either this is old or new, whatever. I need to check if I could power it on now, but whatever, another day. Otherwise the stream gets too long. And this is also, you have something fixed by Apple and you get an older Intel stepping. I nearly wanted to complain back in the day. Apple can really be happy that I had other things to do and worry about back in the day. And yeah, and this is seeing Louis Rossman's video. I'm really curious if I disassemble this fully, which we will do on a maybe live stream time will show, because I still wanted, you have seen the other videos with my digital optical SPDIF. The good thing about this machine, it still has a separate mic and optical line in, so not many machines have this. Not only very few machines have optical digital out, which the Macs had until recently. This even has optical in. Even I myself did not know this until some years ago. And as you know, if you follow all of my videos, this optical in does not work on Linux. On Mac it works obviously, but not on Linux. Everything else probably works on Linux. And the optical in is the same on the previously black polycarbonate MacBook I showed you, and even Mac Pro. I also have a Mac Pro. And so I still want to measure with a digital scope if this optical in is going directly through, or if this has some logic gate buffering driver in between that can be switched on and off, because I need to know if I only need to debug the software, if there's something wrongly configured with the Realtek codec in Linux, or if this is hardware switchable, whatever. But this is why we will anyway probably likely disassemble this soon, which is quite an effort because quite some components. And yeah, sometime soon you need to share, like, and subscribe for that. Where is now my next Mac of all so many? By the way, in the chronological order, I forgot one. One of the few Macs that did not have a direct manufacturing defect is, by the way, this MacBook Air, which, by the way, was also a wrong investment. I should not have brought this. Also, I really hate it. Apple is selling the best computers. First of all, the first MacBook Air had only one USB port, completely unusable for myself. I waited a little bit. And then this one, what I really hated from the, I nearly did not wanted to buy this. I only brought this because we did Mac software and I needed something portable. And why I still did not wanted to buy this with 2 USB ports was okay-ish, but I really hated this bezel. Look on this bezel. The screen to bezel ratio, and look, in my opinion, how ugly this looks. It would even look better if, from a stylish design point of view, as I'm a little bit of a designer, at least makes the screen as large as here the keyboards would, at least here one matching line. But this looks, in my opinion, so ugly, but whatever. And so not a direct serial defect, but again, I have not used this so much. However, there is something slightly defect, as you have seen on my other videos and live streams. The Thunderbolt port on the mini display port, as Apple used previously for Thunderbolt. This has not a good contact, and I have not even used this. You see, this looks nearly new, and I have not used this because somehow the performance was not the most outstanding, and I did not like this small display. So this is relatively new-ish here, first-hand. Company supplies things, and it's relatively new, and the Thunderbolt port does not even work anymore. You need to press the mini display port, you need to press it a little bit, or not press it completely in, like leave it 1 millimeter out, so that it has, otherwise it doesn't have contact, so otherwise the display doesn't link train and flickers or has stripes or Thunderbolt. You have seen this live on my SSD videos with target disk mode, how unstable and fragile this was. So not a serial defect as it, but completely pristine. No liquid damage, no drops, no whatsoever, not heavy use. It looks like nearly unpacked, new, and port doesn't work because amazing mini display. And by the way, maybe this also is an indication that we should not use such small and fragile ports. If you plug something in and out 20 times and they don't work anymore, then they're also not such great of connectivity ports. Next, a real serial defect. You see, I don't make this not only not up, but we have here plenty to talk about. So many defects. This is still my daily driver, and this 15-inch unibody Retina MacBook Pro. This is what I use most of the day for email and development on macOS with Xcode and such. And serial defect on this one. So to be honest, this is my second. So this fortunately does not have a direct serial defect. However, this is only my second because the first had a serial defect. What was the serial defect on the first? Display image retention. So I did not buy the very first Retina MacBook because I knew it was underpowered. It was at the border of being able to drive this high DPI display, some 3800 whatever pixels. So we are usually quite clever here. If something is underpowered and only the first gen that is not the most amazing, we don't buy it. So I brought the second generation. You would think, okay, second generation, that should already have all the small first gen stuff ironed out and amazing working, but no. The display had image retention, huge recall program, extended warranty, actually no recall. Apple is probably not really doing recall unless some power supply is burning. Image retention. So what does it mean? This means if you had some screen Safari Xcode, the image was still burning, like in a CRT. And an anecdote to this, I did not immediately realize this because I used this most of the time with my external display. So I was not using this built-in display most of the time. So I only realized after 6 months, and when I had the first international travel, I used it for a week on international travel, maybe even ironically flying to Apple, maybe something like that, plus minus a week or two. And then after 6 months, I realized, oh boy, what bloody is going on with this display? This is unusable. I was programming in an airplane, going back to my PowerPoint presentation, and my whole PowerPoint presentation, all my source code was visible. I said, what the heck is going on with this? And then, because this was my primary machine and we had only older machines and also people working for us had some Macs, I cannot just take another Mac. I called Apple, say hello, I'm affected on this image retention program thing. And Apple said, okay, no worries, we already know about this. We have already our amazing extended Apple warranty program thing. And you would think all is hunky-dory and amazing. So problem was, I was really busy that year, some 4 or 5 years ago, not YouTube streaming every other day like today, but like really busy working, even working more, like not YouTube streaming at day and night, but writing code at day and night, and I could not give it to Apple because I was simply, and by the way, that year I think I had really many international flights, so I was 1 month flying to Russia, and thank you very much for that donation channel, GNU Free Software, sounds amazing. And then when you fly maybe every 14 days, you fly somewhere. 1 week to Moscow, 1 week to the United States, another week to somewhere else like France or whatever, then maybe a trade show like the CeBIT or some other trade show in Germany. I cannot give this to Apple for a week because it's not like you go there and they swap it. No, they keep it, at least in Germany in the Apple store. I think the estimate was usually like a week or something, because they had to order it. They, like Louis Rossmann always tells you, they don't have it in stock. Even an Apple store does not have this in stock. So if I bring it to the Apple store, they order it and it's laying there some days, and I cannot run my company if this is my, of course I had other machines, but I had all my data. I would had to replay a backup, restore a backup. I would have less performance and so on and whatever. And so I waited 6 months. That was my mistake. And then after 6 months, so 6 months until the defect, I realized 6 months until I had enough time with travel and schedule and everything. So 1 year, 12 months, maybe a little bit over 12 months. And I go to Apple, okay, finally I have time. Can you now please swap me the display? And then the people in the App Store tell me, no, it's out of warranty. What do you mean out of warranty? It is it's 13 months. Says, yeah, but our Apple limited warranty, something back in the day was 12 months. Said, excuse me, you have this in the system already for 6 months. Yeah, but why have you not come in the last 6 months? Said, because I was working. I cannot give you this thing for a week when I work. And the problem was I did not buy this from Apple. I brought this from a local store here. And the second problem was because even back in the day, 3.5 years or 4 years or whatever, consumer warranty rights were 2 years, I think. It's six months like warranty and 24 months serial defect, like not like different kind of warranty. In German it's Garantie, Gewährleistung and Garantie or something. And the second thing is they do not in Europe and Germany still, even today, companies do not have this 24 months by law like warranty. And this is why Apple then said this was a business to business sale, not a business to consumer sale. They did not want to swap me this bloody display, even though after 6 months, they had it already for 6 months in the system. And I had to make, no joke, I had to make over 10 phone calls. I had to completely escalate this. At the end, I spoke to some higher management. And this is why I should have for years already made this YouTube channel and documents this. I had for weeks, I called 10 days in a row. At the end, I escalated this to some higher European support management there in Ireland. And I had to argue with some higher management that it is not okay. Not even because Apple tried to smuggle out of this because of a business-to-business sale when they were totally aware that they had an image retention problem. This was not my fault. It was in the records for 6 months. And I was so furious about this bloody bullshit. And then people tell me on Twitter, Apple are pro machines. Where was this even? I closed this probably, or here's still some thing here. Then people on Twitter tell me, and this is maybe not the best quote here, but if you have too much time and go through my Twitter fights with bloody Apple fans, if you go through there are so many people, these are pro machines and blah blah blah. Yes, it's a pro machine for business, and then as a business I don't get support. They tell me it's a business to business sale and they do not need to have more than 6 months or 12 months Apple limited warranty when it's an extended repair program. And then I should buy premium machines, and then they wonder that I'm not willing to buy premium machines anymore. Okay, so long story short, this is the second machine. The first machine, after 10 times, 10 calls and escalating this, I had to really, and by the way, I had to really get furious. At the end, I was so pissed. I was really so angry with Apple. I was really a little bit unfriendly speaking with this higher manager there in Ireland. At the end, they said, okay, out of their generosity, they will exceptionally swap me this display. And even then, after all this history, they allowed me to finally go back to the Apple store here in Berlin, which is, by the way, just around the corner. And I brought it there, and they did not even have this in the system that some manager decided to, and they even run the test. So after all these fights for 10 days and 10 phone calls, they even plugged in their image retention pattern generator test program there. They network boots this there on their Apple test infrastructure, and they had there some Apple certified OSINT ASP something test program, so they had there some test pattern, and they told me if this test pattern is not visible enough after 60 seconds, and there you see how bad was this problem. They had the test pattern, you know, some stripes and such, and they had to check, even after all this discussion and being in the system for 6 months and having 10 phone calls and escalating this totally, they still checked in the store again after the 6 months, again, that it really still shows this image, and such an arrogant, bloody, user-unfriendly company this is. And this is why I also started this YouTube channel to document this and spread the word. And I, as even making Mac software still, and ironically still earning quite some money with Mac software, I cannot recommend Macs anymore. How should I tell a customer, buy this Mac, it's a nice pro machine, when it's not user serviceable, when it's not upgradable, and if you have a support issue, because there, again, F-checked, if not say, fucked up their design again and have some warranty issue, they don't even repair it. And you need to make a complete scandal out of this to get your bloody image retention display swap. So, then, why is this the second machine? Then they eventually swapped this bloody display, because sure enough, with their bloody test pattern, I was standing there, oh my god, after all this fight, don't tell me that this test pattern does not show. And you will not believe, after 60 seconds, I think they had the test pattern maybe for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, something like this. It's from memory, it's some years ago. And I was standing there, oh my god, after all this fight, let's hope this stupid test pattern still shows. I was thinking, and by the way, 60 seconds, how long is 60 seconds that you have some test pattern still shining through after 60 seconds? And lo and behold, it's still shining through after 60 seconds, or what they tested there. And I made 3 crosses in the calendar to finally be done with this bloody display. And the reason, ironically, I should probably not say this on live camera, but so this, the first one of those, my sister-in-law now has, because I had to get rid of this. So the display was swapped. It was a relatively nice machine, but you will not believe, the first generation, so this is 1 generation later, and I only had to sell to my sister-in-law for certainly an in-family good price. Not really made profit on that one, for her birthday and such, contributing their huge part to her birthday present in the family. Of course, it's brand new screen, amazing machine, obviously top notch. She's still using it. However, I had to change this machine because this generation before that was not capable of driving an external 4K display with 60 Hz. And this is why you will see this on my blog with the Dell 4K display. This is why eventually I then swapped this to the 1 generation newer, this one, because I needed 4K on the external display, 4K with 60 Hz. Also, by the way, so the previous generation, so this one can do 4K at 60 Hz on the mini display port. The previous generation cannot on Mac OS, funny enough, on Windows and Linux, and can do. I think maybe this might be related. Either Apple was again ugly to their customers, not giving them 60 Hz on 4K on the external output, or alternatively it has to do with the Intel graphics, because as you have seen on my other video, that on this, and by the way, another point, these machines need a secret EFI password protocol to enable the iGPU, because it has iGPU, Intel GPU and NVIDIA graphics. And as per my previous video a year ago, you need to send a special iMac OS API, API authentication, otherwise the EFI BIOS will disable the internal GPU, maybe among some other things. So if you boot without the secret API, booting into Windows or Linux will not give you the Intel CPU. And of course Apple is doing this to save support on Windows, but it's really an ugly move. Ugly move because I understand they do not want to support this on Windows, okay fine, because certainly this reduces battery life, right? Because all the people who run Windows on this kit much worse battery life because Windows cannot use the iGPU, the Intel GPU, for reduced energy use. And I noticed this. I booted Linux. I wanted to use my T2 obviously because macOS peaked bugs, nothing really works there anymore. And then I noticed, where's my iGPU going? I want to use the Intel GPU. Not only is the Novo driver not frequency scaling, it is of course working, but as you have seen, it could work better if NVIDIA would release some specification or not hinder the Novo developers as much as they do. But then you don't even get it because Apple is hiding it from you, which is also really not, I mean, Apple, what is wrong with you? And seriously, get your act together. Do not, this is not user-friendly to hide the, and by the way, who knows this? It took me a whole weekend to figure out why the iGPU is not showing in Linux. It took me research, and by the way, not only did it took me research, I even had to spend the time packaging, compiling, testing, and then it wasn't even working because with a firmware update, Apple changed some protocol details. So this patch I found open source on the internet in bug trackers was not even working for me. So it took me a whole day. I documented this on YouTube a year ago. It took me a whole day, one day to find this, find, diagnose, package, patch, and another day to even debug and get this working because Apple changed the protocol details. So amazing usability, Apple, well done. Most outstanding, user-friendly, amazing company. So this one does not really have, I can't say I have a serial defect for exactly this one, except that I'm really disappointed that this, by the way, not the most clean right now because I type on this each and every day. But you see, these keycaps here are so low quality here with this engraved keys that you see my keys start to disintegrate. I could probably call this manufacturing flaw or at least design and quality flaw. So you see this here mostly with the A, but also somewhere else, I think. Oh, by the way, also I think on one machine was not maybe, yeah, here's the arrow keys also. So hope this is maybe a little bit visible. So much to outstanding Apple keyboard quality, well done, amazing design, amazing build quality, amazing everything, totally not recommended anymore. And my S10 is fine, I only used it for a few minutes and will check later. And I forgot here, by the way, maybe I put this already over here on my other desk, not that it falls off. And this is only, we had certainly more Macs, but usually other Macs we had also had serial defects. Another Mac that has a serial defect, which I forgot a little bit in the chronological order. You will not believe what kind of Mac had a serial defect. Thank you very much for hanging out so long, because now comes the masterpiece. Are we still? Just requires a little bit of deadlifting here. Wait for it, you will not believe. Yes, Apple managed to have a serial defect in the G5. Of all the amazing Macs, you have seen my G5 already on previous videos. Are we, by the way, zero drop frames? So what is the serial defect in this G5? You will not believe of all things that Apple can do wrong. And by the way, I also did not buy this one just on eBay because I had this new since 15 years. Before I started my company, I brought this privately as student, brand new, first hand. And I'm not making this up. I have video proof of owning this. Not only can all my friends and family confirm this, I have also older YouTube videos of this. And what is the serial defect on this one? You will probably ask, can anyone guess already? The power supply. Because why should Apple be able to build a lasting power supply? The power supply is in here, and from one day to another it stopped working. I wanted to switch it on, didn't switch on. And it was still in warranty. And why do I remember so precisely that this was the power supply? Because I was a student. This was in 2005 or something, 2004. I was a student, I didn't have a car. I carried this bloody, and this is Apple self-service bring into store, right? I carried this bloody G5 through the subway, through the bus, to a bloody Apple service authorized service partner. This 20 or whatever kilo my arms were hurting for a week from carrying this bloody shit thing there. And thanks God, since then it did not have the serial defect again. Since then it worked. But there you see, Apple can even have serial defects in such huge 25 kilo server grade machines. And this is why I can't recommend them anymore. When PC vendors can build machines that work, why should I recommend? But no, we don't have an Apple phone anymore, but we can hold here this peak battery bug phone into the camera, because as you know, my previous iPhone 6 had band gate, and this phone had already 1 or 2 times the battery swapped. So much to amazing, outstanding Apple quality. And as per the amazing Apple quality, they don't install you. You would think, because what is said is, Apple said this battery had some, I think they wrote something like it was chemically, there were some chemical residuals or some impurities or something. They made it sound like it was some manufacture, like some supply chain imperfection there. But if it was a one-time chemical composition issue, why is my new battery now, after a year and some months, it's worse, even worse than the original battery if it's a one-time thing? Why is Apple installing the same low quality battery again in this? Underlining Louis Rossmann's trend of Apple, just to hold it here in the camera, a matching machine here. This is a matching machine. Why? Completely agreeing with Louis Rossmann. Apple, I've seen this myself, they installed the same logic board, and I had friends and family and internet people where after this serial warranty program swap, they had the same logic port fail, the same NVIDIA GPU. I'm waiting for the day. Of course, I'm not using this much. I only start this here every month for some test or something. And I'm still waiting for the day that this swapped logic board dies again with this NVIDIA GPU desoldering. And also per Louis Rossmann, maybe not all of those were actually the GPU. Maybe if you follow also other YouTuber like Louis Rossmann, maybe you have seen that he found out that a capacitor is going bad, and maybe they would not even need to swap the whole logic board with the GPU, but the most common defect there is a capacitor maybe. And yeah, so we still earn, you have seen my other video, if you are a recurring viewer or not, you certainly can share, like and subscribe to become one. And as per my previous video, can you make money with open source? You probably realize or guessed or heard that my company still makes a huge % of our profit with Mac software, which is even more sad that I, as a Mac developer, did I build my career to become a Mac developer? No. I accidentally became, or my company to some degree, so initially I said it many times, we wanted to do embedded Linux Exacode, my company, which is here not a paid advertisement, just doing on our, probably could declare this as an Exacode promotion channel for legal reasons. So we founded our company for embedded Linux work, didn't really get too many projects because all the students and freelance developers are fighting for the projects and underbidding each other with a lower price, which we usually did not participate in. So we accidentally became a Mac developer. I had already the iBook I got because the battery life was probably around 5 hours. Even 2003, the iBook had outstanding battery life on Linux. I said it many times. I threw the Mac OS CDs into the trash can. I was not using it. On the first day, I inserted my Rock Linux and carried on with PowerPC development. And I did not use Mac OS for many years until 2005 or something, when customers asked me for scanner drivers. This is how our exact scan for Mac became a thing. And I got this, imagine how ironic this is. I got iBooks for the hardware quality, for the PowerPC, for the battery life, and for perfectly working suspend and resume on Linux, because back in the day, even maybe sometimes today, with ACPI on x86, it's still not working sometimes amazingly on Linux. And back in the day, it was probably 50-50 or maybe even less than 50-50% that you could take an x86 PC with Linux and suspend and resume it. On iBook, PowerPC, no problems. I had the iBook, I had uptimes of maybe a month with Rock Linux back in the day. And how ironic is this? I started with iBooks for PowerPC for seamless Linux support and outstanding hardware quality. And now I'm still making Mac software to some degree, and I can't buy the machines anymore. And by the way, last but not least, the machines that I cannot even buy anymore because they have this. And by the way, if you Google here for I don't make this stuff up, you can easily prove this yourself. Here, display. I googled here a list of extended. I didn't find a real list. Here is a list ongoing. 13-inch non-touch bar solid state drive service. And by the way, the new solid state drives, they are soldered onto the PCB. I will never buy this. And why do people on Twitter tell me it's a one-piece machine, get over it? No, why? It's a computer. If you want a one-piece machine, either buy an iPad, which I also don't agree with, or buy a piece of art, a painting, buy a Van Gogh, hang a Van Gogh onto your wall and call it a day. Don't tell me as a computer professional that I do not know what I'm talking about and this is normal. No, it is not normal. Either call it a computer and have something serviceable or not. But don't tell me as a computer professional what I need. I need a machine that I can also upgrade the SSD. Or if the SSD, and I told it often, this SSD will fail. They have 1000 to 10,000 write cycles with wear leveling. The SSD will fail after 5 years or something, unless you don't use it. Okay, if you hang it, if you nail it onto the wall as a piece of art, okay. But if you really use professionally any PC, the SSD will fail eventually after so many written terabytes of data. And then you have this new Macs, which I will not buy, which I cannot recommend, with soldered on SSD. And your whole logic board, you can throw your whole logic board away unless you are Louis Rossmann and hot air solders off all the flash chips. And why will even Louis Rossmann will probably not do this? Because these are multiple for multi-hundred ball grid array integrated circuits. You do not solder multiple flash chips off of your motherboard and solder them on again. This is extremely error prone. Maybe you even need this Zomar machine that Louis Rossmann himself even is not using anymore because it's so error prone to solder, because you need to align this. You cannot just, if you just hot air on this, chances are with 4 or 8 or how many ever flash integrated circuits, chances are they are not aligned properly, and then you short circuit something or whatever, or you probably don't need to reiterate all the reasons. And so yeah, and then people tell me this is just for better integrated machines. What the heck has this to do with more amazing, this has nothing to do with better integrated machines. And by the way, macOS in the meantime has so many peak bugs. If you follow me on Twitter with the hashtag peak bugs, and I encourage everyone, join the hashtag peak bugs and post stuff. I make this, and by the way, speaking, and I will also make more videos about this. Now I put this here already on my stand here. This Mac, latest macOS, Mojave. By the way, I hate these names. Use numbers. Who knows if Mojave became before or after Sierra, or okay, Sierra, High Sierra, okay, but then Mojave, is it before or after? In the meantime, a customer calls me, he's using whatever, El Capitan or something. I don't even remember anymore which exact version number this is. How many years is this old? Use bloody numbers and not this bloody stupid names where you don't even know from which year this is. So latest Mac, so first of all, it's not, when I use external display, 30% of the time it's not waking up. I wake it up with an external display, I don't have display output. What professional machine is this? I need to open the display, I need to plug out the cable, I need to plug it in again, ruin another connect cycle there on this fragile display ports, and then I import iMovie. Often I import this AAA YouTube edits here, I lose video snippets in the timeline. You can't tell me it's the most amazing software if I import something in iMovie, start editing, and then some snippets are missing there in the timeline. This is not working software. And other stuff. The other day even the terminal crashed. I had some heavy text scrolling, compiling something on I don't even know what, the Ryzen or something. I made a Twitter or Instagram photo about this. Whatever it was scrolling, the terminal crashed from scrolling text. And whatever. Anyway, so and peak bugs. I don't even, probably this stream gets too long, I probably make a dedicated peak bugs video. But here, iPhone 8 logic board replacement program, not to mention bend and antenna gate. Here, keyboard service, ongoing keyboard service program for MacBooks. And this is just the current stuff. And why can I, and here by the way, NVIDIA failing MacBook Pro here, even 2011 and when this was, and here's even $40 fix. Maybe this is a link to Louis Rossman's video. I have not clicked on all of those links here today. And what is, of course, the latest video, the latest problem that probably all of you know already is the keyboard on top of the soldered on SSD is the Mac Butterfly stuff. This Butterfly keyboard failing. You see it here with, and I don't even buy this. Why should I buy a machine that has soldered on SSD and the keyboard gets stuck? First of all, I don't even like this Butterfly keyboard. It types like a dead cardboard. I don't want to type on a dead cardboard the whole day. This scissor keyboard is already short travel. Why should I buy a machine, an overpriced machine that has a keyboard that is typing like you type on a dead cardboard package? And then I didn't like it from the first day, and then on top of not liking it, it has issues, heavy, not small, heavy, probably all, as many as I see them, likely over 50% of the users, maybe even all. I can't see how not all users get this problem, have this key stuck and keys not working. And even you have seen on other big YouTubers, Unbox Therapy and such, I think Unbox Therapy even had the keyboard on a relatively, in maybe even the first week, some keys not always pressing, sometimes repeating, like coming up slow, and then you type E and you have 3 times E. I don't make this up. This is not, I did not buy this because I don't like it. I don't like the machines, I don't like the keyboard, I don't like the soldered SSD, I don't like the T2, ironically T2, thank you for using my T2 Linux name, T2 security chip. And this T2 security chip, even if you disable this, you don't get to see the SSD in Linux or Windows. What shit move is this? What dick move is this from Apple to hide the internal SSD from the user if they want to boot sometimes Linux for professional web development or other whatever development? And so this keyboard, huge problem. It's already the 3rd generation, and even on the 3rd generation where they have a small ring of rubber isolating dust particles, stopping nonsense, even there people have this stuck key problem. So this keyboard has so little travel that apparently one spot of dust can block the key from functioning properly. And for this I should spend so much money for a all compromise unit, PC, Mac laptop thing. And I probably don't need to repeat all over and over again for the rest of this stream that all the other Macs have also compromises. All of them are thermal throttling, they are overheating. Even there were people making a video that a Core i7 is not even faster than a Core i5 or what this was because it's thermal throttling so much. Why? You can't call this a pro machine, you can call this an amateur machine, you can call this a design apprentice, a design trainee made his first design attempt machine, but don't call it a pro machine if it doesn't have any serviceable parts, if it has a stuck keyboard problem, if it is overheating. And yeah, even all of those, even this is, I probably got the Core i7 for a little bit more performance. It's overheating, and in Linux you see this in the system messages from the Linux kernel, performance events, throttling. In macOS, ironically, certainly why should Apple show to the user? macOS is not showing you the overheating anywhere, but of course in Linux you get a system message, thermal level reached there, throttling stuff. And I only wanted to make this video because if I do not make this video, and this is why I started these videos, if I only write on Twitter, hello, there is problem this, you see people always jump on my tweets and hijack there that it is amazing. No, it's not amazing. Here on tweets, and where is this even here? Notifications or somewhere. And yeah, here's this usual, what is it? And yeah, not topic of this thread at all. And why is this? Only because I've written headphone jack. Excuse me, this is, I summarize things not amazing and I do not like on Apple. And what? This is still the same on topic if I do not like iPhones because I don't have a headphone jack. And maybe Apple is removing the headphone jack next from the MacBooks. Who knows? With their amazing user friendliness, not. And why is this not on topic if this is a general trend there on their machines, and not even whatever, you can get the idea, not even. And by the way, with a headphone jack, a lot of people chime in here on this here. This Niels, don't even know them. You see, and what kind of, I really wonder how people, this is really a drug. It's like a drug, people are addicted. And how can be people such a fanboy? This is, I'm sorry in German, but, and then they write 18 cores, 256 gigabyte memory, and it's whatever. It's a pro machine, but how is it a pro machine if you can't service something? It doesn't matter if it has 18 cores and so much theoretically gigabyte of memory maybe. If, by the way, this configuration costs I think $19,000 US or something, so I will not buying a Mac for $19,000 US. Thank you very much. I rather buy myself a mini IT export and plug in there. And this is also the point. You have seen in my tinkering videos, if I get a PC motherboard, I can match the memory. I can take memory out of storage. I can swap it with another machine. I can upgrade it. And by the way, I tried, but I could carry the Mac Pro. I have a 8-core dual socket 8-core Mac Pro also that unfortunately did not have a serial defect as far as I remember. But I tried to upgrade this Mac Pro. I tried to upgrade with pin compatible CPUs from Intel with the next generation. But of course the Apple EFI BIOS does not support this. So if this would be a PC motherboard, I could have upgraded this expensive. This Mac Pro costs us 6,000 euro when it was new. We brought this with 20% developer discount. Apple is giving, at least back in the day, not sure what they do today, because you see right now I don't buy new Apple machines. Back in the day they had 20% discount for developers. So this Mac Pro list price was probably 7,000 or so euros. We got this with 20% developer discount, which was still 6,200 or whatever something. And then with a 6,000 dual socket Pro machine, I cannot swap out the CPU after 2 years because of EFI BIOS limitations. Thank you very much, Apple. And then you expect me to buy another 6,000 euro Pro machine a decade later because you already supported me so amazingly with your first overpriced Pro machine. Thank you very much. And then he even wrote, he is so much a fanboy, this guy or girl, a lightning cable is not a dongle. What? A lightning headphone jack cable is not a dongle? How is a lightning headphone jack cable not a dongle? Of course it's a dongle. It's a definition of a dongle. What is wrong with those Apple fans? And here, the most professional users are based on Apple products, work with their iMac and MacBook, and because iMacs have by nature more power, and how do I even care that an iMac has more power if it's thermal throttling and you also can't service something and you need to cut off your display. I mean, you need and also PC all-in-ones. PC all-in-ones are not professional machines, and with this iMac you need to cut open, and by the way, there you see the user friendliness of Apple. The old iMacs, by the way, we only had once an iMac. My company, we brought once an iMac, and this iMac was such a mirror display. Nobody here liked to work with this. We have returned this, I think, in 2 weeks because nobody liked this. This was 10 years ago. Everyone hated it. Some people even got headache. I had one of my partners back in the day when he wanted the iMac, then they got the iMac, and then after 2 years they said, I get headache. I cannot work with this iMac. I see the lamp, I see the bookshelf, I see all the reflections. We had one iMac and we returned it. And by the way, it was not for me because I didn't want it. So much to iMac is a professional machine. Yes, thank you very much. When even people get eye irritation and headache from all the reflections. Thank you very much. And the initial iMacs had the screen with magnets. So you could just take it off and service something. They changed this after a generation or two. Apple has changed this and glued the display. The magnetic solution there actually I found quite nice and user-friendly, but of course Apple being Apple, they changed this and glued the display because who would want to service something on an iMac? You have seen probably similar stories on YouTube, and I do not buy glued together computers and then don't call it a computer, call it an iPad Pro or something and not a computer with soldered in flash and memory. And on the new machines, on the very latest MacBook, I think they switched back to socketed memory. What is it? MacBook memory upgrade or something. So I think, if I recall, but this is only from memory, I think service not as often. What I really want to service is the SSD, and the SSD will likely last 100 if not 200 years maybe, but don't take my word for granted on this. But what will not last forever is the flash memory, and the flash memory is soldered to the logic board. And if you think Apple is such a nice user-friendly company, why do they have socketed memory? Because people cry so much, but not socketed SSD. And I have also shown you that Apple was so ugly to the users that even on these machines they have, can we load already? Even on these machines they had a proprietary connector. So even although this would fit, and I made a video swapping this just in this very Retina MacBook Pro. So it is socketed, but it is proprietary. And when people tell me they made this for better integration, no. Why? It is even larger. I've shown in this video that there is enough space inside there that a standard M2 SSD plus the PCB for the adapter fits in there. So it is larger and it is enough space for the adapter to, because it's only the pins, it's PCIe and just the pins and the connector layout, different mechanical connector. So it is larger and a PCB connector fits in there. So, and then for what better integration if it's even larger? I mean, thanks to the gods of the universe, it is larger. This is the only reason why this allows us to aftermarket swap this with a regular brand SSD with the PCB adapter as seen in my previous video. But for what better integration and user-friendliness is this? For none. There is no better integration user-friendliness, and even Linux runs more stable than Peakbug's macOS on this. I can attest you as a developer. And I don't make this stuff up that the stuff is constantly crashing. By the way, fun fact, when Mojave was new, it would reliable crash. I could on the first releases of Mojave, or however this bloody name is pronounced, I could not edit my videos with the external display connected. Each time you would start iMovie, it would crash in some graphic state inconsistency with my 4K. By the way, it was not 4K related. It also happened with my Full HD Apple Cinema display at home. So with an external display connected, you could not start iMovie, and this is how amazing this hardware and software is integrated. Thank you. It took, I complained, I tweeted and screenshotted this many times on Twitter, and it took probably 3 point updates until this was fixed. Only until recently I can now start iMovie with an external display again. Amazing hard and software integration, and this is why we need soldered in SSDs and memory for this amazing integration. Thank you for that. And let's see, what do we have in the comments to probably call this a day. I think this is a broad summary, probably most of the stuff you need to know about the peak bug and peak hardware issues situation on the Apple MacBook side. And I think with my heritage here of more than 20, if not 30, or maybe even more Macs here in the past 20 years, I have quite some experience. And again, we went from iBooks that I brought for the hardware quality and Linux support to I will not buy this Macs anymore, even for our Mac software. I will rather price this MacBook might be the last one. If Apple is not changing, this MacBook might be the last one, and I will keep this and use this. And if I in some years need to use some hacky methods, probably because Apple will stop support for this eventually, and I will use this and I will modify macOS, I will boot this somehow with the usual aftermarket user community modifications and pry this out of my dead cold hands to support our Mac software, but I will not spend any money on this broken, by factory, non-serviceable, designed to be obsolete with flash write cycles and such, and rather buy a ThinkPad or whatever. And then comments from the audience: it's very old now, G4 Titanium at least was built nice. So the problem with thank you Crocodile for this, I did not had a Titanium, but the Thai box also had the defect. Back in the day I had to count each cent. I was not that rich. I did not have rich millionaire parents. I had to buy and save and work my ass off my whole life here myself. So I was not able to just buy each and every nonsense here. Unfortunately, the Thai books, yes, they looked relatively okay-ish, but they had, actually funny, they have removed this. I thought they had this on Wikipedia. They have a serial defect that the hinges break. And I think it was mentioned on Wikipedia, maybe only on the German one. Let's see. Maybe they have, no, where is the Thai Titanium? They have a different site here. Let's see. No, looks here. At least here it's written that the hinges break, but I think they had previously, someone probably has removed this. Maybe Apple PR, Thai book hinges. They crack, also manufacturing or quality problem. Let's swap to this camera here. And where do we have this? So this hinges break as per usual. Here you see probably some example. This hinges crack here, and yeah, probably this hinge design not the most amazing. And yeah, the hairline cracks, they are fracture as usual. The usual Apple kind of stuff they somehow always overlook. But I knew someone who had this when we started the company. Another company startup next door had this, but again, not enough money to buy each and every one. And Titanium Power books. Okay, I just answered this. I don't consider myself a Mac fan, but use iPhones exclusively, had 4 Hacintoshes, but while I settled with Windows, I made servers with Windows, but now I switched to Linux. Yeah, sounds amazing. And you see, even I have this here still on the desk from the Samsung live stream the other day, and probably maybe I should have made a AAA video, but this live streaming is faster for me, and not only does it allow you to comment, and now I talked so long that the coffee machine suspense. And as you've seen in the previous live stream, every second iPhone here, and Apple pisses me so off, even as a partial Mac developer and having every second iPhone since the first one. And of course I got this because I wanted to do email, and I will make another live stream about this. This is getting too long, maybe tomorrow, about some details and sorts. And Apple is so ugly and user unfriendly that I, as a partial, I liked iPhones. Of course, I am not trapped so much in the Apple reality distortion field. Otherwise, I would not switch to Samsung or have a Nexus somewhere, do a Nexus 5 and Palm Pre. You see, even back in the day, I tried to switch to Linux already. WebOS here showed this in the other live stream. And Apple is so much a bitch of a company, and quoting Linus Torvalds, it's basically like Apple is not quoting Linus Torvalds, not Linus Torvalds, Louis Rossmann. with his famous half bitch and whole bitch, I have to say, in a way, Apple is so much of a whole bitch to the user. Apple is not a half bitch. Apple is really going all the way to being a whole bitch to the users, to even such relatively loyal iPhone users. And I said this already, why am I an iPhone user for some parts? Because I did not want to support Google, because I'm really a little bit pissed that they took so much embedded projects off of us. I would probably have more embedded projects if it would not be for Android, because this way all the phone manufacturers use this Java-based Android, which I'm not a greatest fan of, instead of being able to sell them native embedded Linux stuff for a decade or so. This is why I did not want to support Google's Android for some parts of this, and I will probably can also make another live stream about this. And I've been Windows free for about 7 years. So the funny thing is, but the problem is this live stream is again getting long. Maybe I should probably make another live stream. Last Mac I owned was a Power Mac 7500 with 200 megahertz upgrade. Here you have seen also we will, and by the way, this channel will not be Apple free. We will also continue here with this Apple 8100 there, maybe with this new bus stuff of vintage fame, and but not this quarter, maybe another winter or year or something. And let's see, the real wallet back in the day was what could run up to Wallet Buster. The real, what? The real, you talk about can't switch from Windows because there is software written. There is no software written like DVB viewer. What do you mean? I was using digital video broadcasting. I can't switch. I use DVB viewer in, what do you mean with what you miss? I was even watching DVB video when I was a student. I don't have a TV for I think in my whole life I never brought myself an own TV. I was probably using some vintage CRT at my parents', and since I moved out to Berlin when I was a student a long time ago, I never had a TV. I'm not even watching TV anymore, only YouTube obviously. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe for that. And when I still was watching TV 20 years ago, I was using a DVB card with Linux. That worked with MPlayer on the Video for Linux device, no problems there, even recording straight from the command line. Let me know what you're missing there. And yeah, 10,000, you see the new Macs, the iMacs, fully maxed out. The iMacs can maybe for the fun of it, we could configure this and document this here. The iMac is probably maxed out, going well to 20,000 euro with the iMac Pro with largest memory upgrade, which is crazy. I would rather build myself an Epic or Threadripper or Epic AMD machine for Linux and QEMU virtual machine, Mac OS, Hackintosh-like or whatever, than giving Apple 18,000 for a non-user serviceable, non-upgradable machine. And again, if you have a self-built, and by the way, does the whole society, we always speak about you do not want to touch your Mac. Why? This machine, 2 snap-in pieces, 2 snap-in pieces, and here this snap-in things, and 3 screws, and you are at the memory. Unfortunately, with this machine, the storage is a little bit more, unfortunately, but it is because you need to, for the storage, you need to disassemble most of the screws and lift off the top cover. We will do this another week, maybe this weekend. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe for that. For this Mac, it is even nicer. This Mac is, and by the way, Apple, why can you not build model machines like this? Make this a little bit thinner, user swappable battery. It can't be so hard. This machine is only 3 screws, and there are even this nice screws like Lenovo also has with this ring to be fixed inside there, so not falling out screws. 3 screws, and you see here the diagram. User swappable even at at Apple. Here are 2 memory modules slotted in there, and here on the side is the storage, 2.5 inch storage. Of course, in the meantime, an SSD upgrade in there, I guess. And what is so difficult? This is only because Apple doesn't want. And Apple had this in the past. Apple is only doing this because Apple does not want to grant its users the right to user serviceable anything, because they want to profit maximize. They want to sell you another Mac. They don't want that you upgrade your storage with AAA high quality professional Intel or Samsung SSD. And for those people who tell me, don't open this, why not? If you are a business, and I had this, I was at a customer in Spain, because you probably realize sometimes I travel to customers, and also for either Linux or Mac software, and a customer in Spain had a Mac Mini. It was so slow, dog slow, and then he asked me, can you not optimize your software? It's running so slow. But it was not our software. Our software, by the way, is usually rocket fast, totally amazing, super optimized, shameless self-promotion plug. And it was the Mac, not only was the Mac Mini overheating, also the hard drive was falling, because who in 2019 is still selling rotational storage? Of course, Apple, with the famous Apple quality and user serviceability. I think, let's check this. Yeah, 1 terabyte hard drive. So for 1,099 euro, you get a 1 terabyte serial ATA drive with 5,400 RPM that is guaranteed to fail in a year's time or two. And I had this, and I have each week we have customers who ask, can you send us the license code of us, because we can't find it anymore, our Mac died, our hard drive died, and such each week. And then also people have a backup. People somehow, although it is super snappily integrated, many users even of our software don't have a backup, and they need to buzzer our support to look up their license code from 2 years or 3. And of course, as an amazing user-friendly company as we are, we do this, not like other companies who say this is your support purchasing, look it up yourself, it's not our challenge. So you see, of this amazing Apple quality in 2019 gives you amazing rotational storage that no sane person usually would want to buy for this kind of setup. This high of a quality Apple is delivering to its users, finally selected by professionals for you in Cupertino. And let's spec out here the iMac Pro, which I also will not get because serviceability and T2 security chip. Of course, it starts at a whopping 5,000. You know what? A whopping 5,000 euro buys me a fine AMD dual socket EPIC or Threadripper amazing machine. And again, on the own machine, you can just swap something. Something fails, you swap it. And you can continue. This piece of thing, you need to deal with Apple support. You need to carry it to an Apple store. You need to ship it in. And you are out of work material for a week or two. And let's configure this. And the next thing is, oh, by the way, this is a US site, so plus tax and all the fun stuff. So let's configure here the 18 core for 2,400 euro. By the way, did this just add really? Yeah, so the amazing Apple prices and Intel and Apple prices, making our 5,000 all-in-one unserviceable stuff more expensive. So, and then here, yes, you can configure 256 gigabyte of memory for $5,000. But you know what? I rather buy this myself and can swap it out when I need it. Yeah, now we're already at 12,000. Which sane person buys an all-in-one for nearly, by the way, this is pre-tax, so plus VAT in the States, more than 30,000 probably. Let's max out the graphics for Pro Vega 64, and of course we need some storage. And by the way, not even sure, is this soldered on or socketed, no idea on this. And then we are here indeed at a whopping 15,699 US dollar, you name it, for a non-user swappable, non-user serviceable piece of stuff. And if you want a keyboard that might get stuck with dust, you probably want, I know, maybe it's included, anyway, and by the way, even if you follow YouTubers, even the VESA mounting adapter is a piece of shit. And someone, maybe Snazzy Labs or someone, even ruined his Macs. The screws are apparently, according to the Snazzy Labs video, are so low quality that this threading of the screws is breaking off. Even the screws are such an amazing low Apple quality that they are stuck inside there. You can't get it out again. And then even the Apple support couldn't get them out again, and they totally scratched his Mac, apparently, the back case. So yeah. And then with all the peak bugs, and I already, not only Mac OS peak bugs with not connecting a display on waking off, and iMovie not being able to import all the clips, although it says successfully imported, I should shed out another $2.99 for Final Cut Pro to have another peak bug software that probably works as unreliable as all the other peak bug stuff. Thank you very much. Let's see what other comments do we have. Too much money to play something. Neither could remember the prices. In the 80 schools I went, either had the PC Junior or Apple 2GS. That sounds amazing. Our schools in Germany didn't had any PCs as far as I remember. I guess at home we had the 286, and later the first thing I really used was the 386 SX25. Memory lane, yeah. Also memory lane in so much to you. And by the way, with this Apple stuff, many of the things, for example, you cannot upgrade later. This is also a complete shame that needs to be called out. You tell me this is amazing for integration and user friendliness, my ass. This here has, and this is, by the way, why is Apple doing this? Because you need to max out when you order. This is relatively maxed out because I was very well aware that this situation is so shitty. So this is mostly maxed out, 512 GB storage and 16 gigs of memory, which of course back in the day was quite expensive. And then eventually 512 GB was not enough for me anymore because iMovie, Xcode, maybe a Linux VM or two and such. And I wanted to upgrade this. Of course I knew Apple would probably not do this. I walked to the Apple store in the lunch break here next block and I asked them, here, by the way, I need a terabyte of storage. And what did Apple tell me? No. And what do they mean with no? No means they will not upgrade you the storage. And I'm not sure if any, I don't know if the situation has changed in the meantime. As much as I know Apple, maybe not. If the situation has not changed, you cannot upgrade this later. Apple will only service you the flash that you have here, the socketed flash. They will only, if this failed, swap it to the same one, because I told Apple, what is the problem? You have this in the stock. Can you not, out of a shelf, take one out, plug it one in the socket and sell it for me for a good overpriced margin? I said no, they can't. They do not have an infrastructure, they don't want. So this is why even when it's socketed, you can't upgrade this. This is only the only upgrade as far as I know, unless the situation changed recently. Only when you do it yourself aftermarket, and this is also why you obviously need to open this if you want to do this. And there you see, you buy this overpriced nonsense and Apple is not even selling you upgrades later on. Unless the situation changed, but maybe not. And this is why you need to spec this out, especially if this is soldered to the motherboard. If it's soldered to the motherboard, you obviously can't change it. Even Apple can't change it. Apple will not hot air you off the SSD, if this is soldered here on this, I don't know, on the iMac. But on the MacBook, obviously, Apple will never, Apple has not done with a socketed, and Apple will, this is certainly out of question that Apple will never solder you off the SSD. And when people, I don't really understand what is wrong. It's a drug. They need to get to a clinic. They need to get clinically to some, what is even the term for this, the English term for this drug clinic addiction program stuff. They are really trapped in this reality distortion field. I have no other words for this. It's like a drug that they are on to describe, and I don't understand how can people be so much fan of a company. Yes, I use this. I understand they are relatively nice to some degree, plus or minus. Although I never liked the aluminum, by the way. I never was not a fan. And by the way, Lenovo, please don't make ThinkPads out of aluminum. Please not. I really hate this. And I would never defend a company like my Holy Spirit here that it's the most amazing if everything is, everywhere I look is something not perfect. And the people really need some clinical attention there. And how can you say this is amazing integration for your own personal support or something if this means you will never able to upgrade it? If it's defect, if it's out of warranty and defects a flash, you cannot upgrade, you cannot swap it to working one. You can only throw the whole logic board away unless you find someone like Louis Rossmann soldering your hot airing of your SSD chips there. And I will probably, why do I make these videos? I do not want to support this kind of development. It cannot be that the computers of the future, you can't service something. You can't, and this is T2 security chip. Maybe one day, right now you can still swap something, but maybe there comes a day, there was already a support document, maybe like Apple has done, like Louis Rossmann has documented. He had displays, and from one software update to another, Apple bricked intentionally that his aftermarket displays for this probably Retina screen were not working with brightness controls or so anymore. So Apple is so evil to go ahead and actively in the software update render your machine with third-party serviced parts unusable, like the home button. They also have done with the self-swapped home button not working anymore with a software update with this error 53 or 57 or 60 or whatever the error code was. And this is why I do these videos. I do not make these videos to shame Apple, but Apple is such a rich of a company that they need to be called out on this. This is not normal. You need to get out of the relative distortion field. You need to get off of these drugs. Make a weekend excursion, make a walk on a mountain in the nature, go a round of bicycling, but do not worship this stuff like it is the most amazing present and gift from the skies and from aliens from a spaceship brought to you straight to Earth or something. I don't know what is wrong with them. And I also, why do I call this out? Please, PC vendors, do not copy this. Please make serviceable, upgradable machines like ThinkPads, where you do not get electroshocks from the fizz of aluminium conducting there some high voltage fizz from the power supply, whatever the issue is with that. And let's see what else we have here. I would like to see you, so I would love to see you angry. And how is this? So this, I answer this shortly. It's time to get C64. It's alright, enjoy listening to a good run every so often. Yes, and we had some problems with XPS machines in 2005 that had the same kind of wired design where the power supply was custom in the bottom. Custom. So yeah, and also, by the way, I knew someone, of course PCs are not unfailable. I had someone with Rock Linux RT2 back in the day in Chile who had a Dell XPS something where this power jack, this old-fashioned regular round power jack failed. I actually soldered him when he was in Berlin. I soldered him wires, so I opened this Dell and soldered the power PC directly on the pins because I didn't have a matching pin-spaced replacement thing there or something, or it's maybe something in the Dell XPS, maybe something was strange with the PCB and couldn't solder there. I don't know what, something soldered that didn't work again. People must have been looking at you on the subway. Yeah, but this is not but this is the only thing is, I don't care. Comment in the audience. People must have been looking in the subway with the G5. Yes, maybe. But first of all, I don't care, as you probably have realized. Second of all, the biggest danger with this is that people steal it from you. Imagine there come some gangsters and I mean, the only good thing is with the G5 you can't run so fast, but if they knock you out and run away with your G5s, then it's also nearly 2,000 euro lost. But I mean, not that Berlin is the most dangerous, but such kind of shit sometimes happen. And then you read in the newspaper, guy with his expensive Apple workstation robbed on the way to the Apple service center. And yeah, Soldered, comments in the audience, Crocodile soldered SSDs. And this is why I make these videos. Of course, Louis Rossmann makes these videos, but Louis Rossmann only has a repair experience, and Louis Rossmann never used Macs like we have used. And Louis Rossmann considers all Macs piece of junk, which back in the day, in the meantime, I have to say, with soldered on SSDs and soldered on memory, and the reoccurring design failures like ball grid array desoldering GPUs because maybe of thermal stress or other impurities, and the general thermal design issues of Apple, and actively taking user serviceability away from the user, I have to agree with him that this is not a user-friendly company. And I wanted to give you some perspective. I'm not hating Apple. I'm only, and you have seen, I brought plenty machines of them, just that they are not amazing anymore. They don't have amazing keyboards. They are not amazingly performing due to thermal design throttling. And Apple is certainly doing everything they can to cash on the most of your money on each and little upgrade and dongle and whatnot. And yeah, 4K display. And actually, I think this might be a crocodile. This might be a 5K display and rotational storage. And this should be criminal to sell in 2019 an overpriced professional machine with let's see, is this 5K? Maybe it is 5K, or what is this here? Intel Iris graphic, does not even say here precisely. I would think, actually, okay, this is a 21.5. Let's see, where is even the somehow. And this is also the amazing Apple side that they don't have here immediately visible specs. Wait a second, this display is why do they have here? Okay, they have here 4K display. Why do they have here? Oh, wait a second, has the entry-level machine a full HD display? Slightly irritated now. Yeah, actually, I did not even know this, so only now with this video I realized the entry-level machine even only has a full HD display, not a 4K display. So looks like you need to pay a little bit extra for the 4K display or so, or only whatever. Not really that interested to figure that out now with this not as user-friendly order site. And amazing Apple around you, covering everything. You can't say half this much about other companies. And the point is also other companies like, of course, Lenovo also has soldered on machines, maybe in the IdeaPad line or somewhere, but at least you have the option. At Apple, and this is also my problem, and why I have historically 20 to 10 years ago, I was using, when nobody was using Linux on the desktop, I was using Linux exclusively on the desktop from 1997 to, or something like this, to 2005 or something, so very early, and started my company running on a Linux desktop with OpenOffice. Everything's built from source, writing invoices in OpenOffice and answering emails in Thunderbird and whatnot. And if you use anything else, you have a choice. You use Linux for some things, you use Windows for other things, you use FreeBSD for yet more things, or Dragonfly BSD or Haiku, and you buy a ThinkPad or a Dell XPS. And what maybe many of the things I mentioned today, the next thing I could say is Apple is also really stupid not to sell macOS to Hackintosh people. Of course, I understand Apple is afraid to lose all the Apple sales of all this overpriced thermal throttling garbage to people who run macOS on a ThinkPad, but on the other hand, Apple could make even more money with sales of music abonnements, this iTunes TV Plus, whatever nonsense they announced there. In the meantime, I think Apple would make even more money on all their additional service sales if they would actually sell Hackintosh people macOS and actually officially make profit off of them. By the way, the only reason Apple is not stopping Hackintosh is more than they not do very much right now, thanks God. I hope that continues like this, is probably because they still cash in quite a lot on iTunes and movie rentals, music, app store sales and whatnot. And I think one of the default options has had the 4K display with mechanical storage. Either way, it's silly. Yeah, I just looked on this here. As you see, I had the feeling, and by the way, this is also shame on Apple that they do not list this here. I have the feeling this 21 has maybe, according to the spec page, only a full HD display. But you see, they don't even write this here clearly, because why should the user know this? Where is even the buy button? Oh, here, add to back. And by the way, why do the websites need to be so laggy today? Probably need to make a video about this. Of course, they want to immediately sell you all the cables and dongles, because special cables and dongles never can have enough of those. And review my back. I really wonder that they do not more closely list here the specs. Somehow they really do not list here the display specs for some strange reason. Maybe that people don't realize it's only Full HD or so. But on the Mac spec page I saw, but this is also my, you have seen on my Samsung Galaxy 10 video from some hours ago that I was also not the most thrilled about their spec page. I wish they would, instead of all the animation, rather list here some hard facts. Because by the way, no, here you see, this probably means here they write Retina 4K display and here not. So this probably means the $1099 option has, as I found on the spec page, the Full HD display only and only this one. So for the full K display, 4K display, you need the $1299 thing here. So we have also, I learned some details about this because I completely did not follow the hardware news here on the Apple side. I only knew the non-serviceable parts stuff, all the not amazing non-Retina display stuff I did not even knew. By the way, we could check if this first full Retina 4K display has storage. Yeah, even this one, you see, even the $1299 4K display starts with a 1 terabyte rotational 5400 RPM storage. So yeah, either a cheap option you buy, you start with rotational storage, because certainly ripping off and overcharging the not very educated Apple customers. And this is also why I make these videos. As I said in the very beginning, this is positive, pointing out, not only educating you what you want to buy or not to buy. And again, I can unfortunately completely not, 0%, not at all recommend this butterfly keyboards. Why would a sane person buy this butterfly keyboard? Makes completely zero sense to me. And Apple is simply relying that people are not educated, that they are so much of a fanboy that they buy everything. They could probably even sell a rotting smelling piece of mushroom garbage that people would still buy it. And there you see, you even need to Google the fine print. Like, even for me on the first glance, it was not visible if it's a Retina 4K screen or not. Only clicking on the spec page, I realized, wait a second, the entry-level model doesn't have Retina 4K. And as I mentioned in a previous stream already, Apple and other companies do not want to have educated customers. And I mentioned in another live stream already, the smartphone people, they only sit here, and by the way, probably means I can install, have I here already loaded Instagram, need to load Instagram, because certainly Instagram galore, and I only load this here now for the fun of it. Whereas even what I, by the way, not the greatest fan of the navigation here, need to get used on this, but probably you can get used to everything. But here's the Play Store, and I made fun out of this. I personally don't use Instagram and Twitter that much anymore. And I mentioned this already a little bit on the other live stream, that I'm not a fan of people only hanging out with smartphones, making people dumber, because 2 decades ago, people knew a little bit. They had a PCI graphic card and a PC motherboard, and it was normal to plug some stuff together and have a working PC. Now we have Apple fans who tell me on Twitter, IT professional, not only Mac, but even Linux kernel and other freestanding kernel driver developer, to tell them it is normal not to have user serviceable stuff and not to make any fuss about of this at all. And if you think I make this stuff up, I reverse engineered nearly 500, probably should switch to the other amazing screen capture. We have a couple of frame drops, so are we still, I hope, 0.2%. I have reverse engineered nearly 500 scanner drivers since 1997 from various companies that are part of our Exact Scan. And on top of this, I've done plenty of open source work. Even wrote Exact Image from scratch, maintain a Linux distribution, and writing kernel fixes and drivers every now and then. And this is why you can share, like, and subscribe and support us here to have even more of this. And those people like myself, I need to listen to Twitter people with a smartphone being so smart to tell me it is not normal to open a PC. Why not? We want to save our planet. We want to stop recycling mountain of trash nonsense, and people want to have a best bang for their buck. Would you accept a car that you can't service? You buy a Ford car, and when the engine oil is old, you need to recycle your whole car? Is this the future we want? Like a Tesla that can only drive 5 years, and when it comes to battery swap, it comes here, sorry, the battery is glued in, we can't sell you a new one because we can't? Is this the future you're looking for, Apple fanboys? Certainly this is not my future. And I think this is now, I summarized probably a lot of points, probably getting enough for today, more or less, I guess. And maybe leave me in the comments below what you think about the situation. And again, I made this, of course there's Louis Rossmann, but Louis Rossmann is a little bit negative in general. And I wanted to give I'm not negative in general. This is just from how many years? 15 years. Over 15 years of experience. Nearly every, if not every second machine had some extended warranty replacement program for any kind of manufacturer imposed serial defect at manufacturing time. I don't make this up. This is pure fact. Google all the defects yourself. And if you don't believe my video summary and check with Google. Only good thing, I'm waiting from Apple that they move to ARM architecture out from Intel, and I want others follow that decision just because they will save money by doing this. So Fun Tiffin or so, I hope you are still in the audience and have not tuned out. I have to tell you, unfortunately, you will be completely disappointed by the ARM MacBooks, because with ARM MacBooks you will have nothing to user service anymore. It will be, I predict ARM MacBooks will be a complete user clusterfuck, because not only will you not be able to install Linux or Windows anymore, you will not be able to run virtual machines anymore, because you will not have high performance Windows or Linux virtual machines. The only virtual machine that is possible would be ARM Linux or Windows, and ARM Windows might be hard, ARM Linux might be possible. However, this might be vastly limited by Apple maybe not providing the kernel framework for hardware virtualization, and again, then it would not be classic x86 operating systems, it would be only special ARM snowflakes, and that might not be easable or maybe even not possible without jailbreaks if you are unlucky. Windows and Linux, although it is not amazing, I don't recommend it, but unfortunately some people in this Apple reality distortion field that think Apples are amazing and they need to run Windows on them, or they need for their medical, for a doctor or lawyer, they need to have iMac for representing a picture that it looks nice or clean or something, and then they run Windows on their entrance help desk there. And I think, in my opinion, Apple, 50% of the sales are made out of professional users who run virtual machines or even Windows and Linux, at least occasional for development purposes. And I expect Apple will lose sales. I think the only reason Apple has not switched entry-level MacBooks is they know very well that they will lose sales to those professional people. And I will for sure not get a locked-in ARM MacBook that is as locked in as iOS for the iPad, because I have no use, not even virtual machine, but any other professional software. And I will make it probably another live stream about this. And I know background was still how it turns out. So, and there were some ARM, I think there were ARM Chromebooks and ARM netbook kind of Microsoft Windows something. And of course they are not amazing, because ARM Windows is not amazing, probably best consumed with ARM Linux, and then you can run whatever you want on it, but then the performance is not the most amazing. But what I will probably do with the Galaxy S10 here that we unboxed earlier today is try to run some T2 or something, make here maybe some professional setup to have here some virtual machine and Linux use, and maybe see what we can do with this for the professional IT fun out of it, like see what we can get going there another month or quarter, certainly not today or tomorrow, but this is what you need to share, like and subscribe here. And the savings would end up in Apple's pockets. Yeah, of course, Apple will not make this cheaper. If you see any reoccurring things, then you see the Apple making entry-level stuff more expensive. And what I also find, by the way, I think I read maybe a book. By the way, maybe we make a book reading lesson here. As you have seen, my channel is here to stay, even though we make only $3 profit of this a day. But for the mental health reason, when I realize, and this is, by the way, how should I base the future of my company on a product line that I see personally no possibility of future professional success? I need to look on future stuff, and as long as our Mac software thankfully sells, thanks up for all our Exact Scan, OCR Kit and Recompress customers and all the other stuff in between. Certainly we have ported it to Windows and Linux already for this kind of professional or non-professional Apple reasons. So as long as and by the way, our sales are up, it's not like I make these videos for degrading sales, no. Because of our ongoing marketing and quality product affairs and supporting nearly 500 scanners that otherwise would only work on a PC, on Mac for all the Mac fans out there. Thank you very much for supporting us. Our sales are up 20% this year. Thank you very much for watching YouTube and buying our amazing end user products. And only this, by the way, Exact code is mostly only existing not for embedded Linux. As I said earlier, can we make a professional company out of open source? Unfortunately not. This is why we need our end user software products. And maybe, by the way, our sales are 20% up because we now have Windows and Linux. Maybe the 20% are Windows users. And yeah, so as long as our software sells, let's build up the next big things. Maybe we have 100,000, if not 1 million subscribers in a year or two, who knows? And as long as Apple fanboys get on our nerves, let's make here this mental therapy channel here to get our frustration out of our minds and educate the users not to buy this biggest piece of bullshit. And by the way, if Apple would make a machine that is user serviceable again with a swappable SSD, with swappable memory, because like I could still use this machine, but I can't upgrade the memory. So for the latest and greatest Linux virtual machine news, yes, then I need to buy a new machine and stuff. And even you have seen my video, due to the proprietary nature and the very special kind of modules that only go in there, I can swap the SSD, but swapping an SSD that is larger than the factory 512 megabyte is not so easy, which is also another reason why this cannot. Oh, by the way, you have seen me making a video. I need to check if adding insult to the injury on the failing power supplies. So here is just our recurring theme of failed Apple power supplies not making. You have seen these videos if you are recurring. So Apple power supplies overheating, or I do not know what. We pried this open in another live stream. Maybe in the future I try to fix this. Apple power supplies only real with Apple, thermal compound gunk or so in there. And yeah, even if the MacBook does not have peak bugs and warranty replacement, this MacBook here already killed 2 power supplies. The original power supply and the replacement one, both dead already. So whatever is up with the Apple power supply situation, I made the video already earlier. And thank you Apple for sending me a free power supply earlier this year after calling you 10 times, because I'm really tired of buying replacement power supplies for this kind of machines. And other comments in the audience, I just wish that there was some Unix that would be stable and UI. So actually, I have here this microkernel idea floating around, and I will continue this, and maybe I make another live stream tonight because can't have enough live streams. As you see, with degrading Apple sales, we need a new line of income. So we need to hurry a little bit with our YouTube channel and pass here the 10,000 subscriber mark with hopefully amazing and even more amazing content. And by the way, I ordered a second mini micro HDMI cable and more stuff, so we will have more. I also need to redecorate our office and make here more space for YouTube Studio, the more subscribers we get. So amazing stuff. And I have this floating point idea floating around here. And certainly, so of course you have probably realized from all the vintage or non-vintage and stuff, I have some ideas for amazing stuff. I'm not really sure should I, because some of this stuff also influences of potentially either going crowdfunding or venture capital. So for this UI situation, I'm thinking of course, some of the stuff is risky and includes multi-million-dollar venture capital investment, maybe, potentially, maybe. Time will show. Of course, one of this idea, Alexander Gonzer, and by the way, are we running out of over our head? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe some of these ideas are crazy, but also Apple and Microsoft maybe have been started on crazy ideas. Certainly Android has been started by Andrew Ruby, what is it? Whatever his name is, doesn't matter. Android was purchased by Google, was an independent startup. So all the startups were out of crazy ideas. I'm still floating around here of whether I should start a new independent company with venture capital. And one of those things is, of course, to call this out here on YouTube. Not so many people are watching this anyway, and chances are only 50-50 that I make this, maybe not, because can I try to make a multi-billion-dollar venture capital startup? Yes, I could. Right now we have sales, right now we have stable income, or actually 20% growing income, thank you very much. And I can live in the day, develop some software and make YouTube live streams. Yes, we can do this. And we have a relatively relaxed life here. Well, relaxed only working day and night between Mac and Linux software and YouTube live streaming. But is it fun? Yes, it is fun also to make this YouTube live stream. This is why I said with customer and Twitter comments piss me off too much, then let's press the YouTube live stream button. But what can we do? We could do, for example, this idea. Yes, this idea I had already. Make a completely user-friendly, I would not for legal reasons say Mac OS-like, but more user-friendly than maybe your general distribution, Unix kind of thing. And maybe not using Xorg, but some more modern stuff. So like some really snappy, tightly integrated, amazing, mostly open source, or some open source with commercial license string attached stuff to make a multi-billion venture capital thing. Yes, I have these ideas. We have this T2. We could use it as a base. We could make something completely stable, API, maybe even in the future switch it to some other, like Android, maybe even, and this is the second idea. Yes, there are plenty of ideas in this area. I'm thinking each quarter I'm evaluating, should I try this again? Should I try this? Maybe leave me in the comments below. Another idea is, of course, do I like this Samsung Android stuff? No, I don't. And you have heard me saying in this open source video, can I make a living out of open source? I said multiple times, I tried a decade ago, I tried to sell open source to Nokia, open source embedded Linux work, integration for smartphone UI design and library development and UI application stack, whatever is related to this, or even car manufacturers and stuff. And we were for the most part not successful because also Android came along and other things. I don't want to repeat everything in this live stream. Am I amazed by this Samsung custom UI? No. Whatever the name, TouchWiz or whatever. I only have a bare minimal overview of all this Android stuff. And I would actually, this is, and I don't understand the manufacturers. They only do this to differentiate probably from other Android vendors, because otherwise I would prefer and like this S10e more with vanilla Android. And of course, I'm aware that there are companies like this. Even OnePlus probably was one of the companies that was created for this, and the other, so this Keanu Motto, whatever this is pronounced. The problem is I usually only read this and then I do not turn on secure Wi-Fi. What does it mean, secure Wi-Fi? My Wi-Fi is secure anyway. And of course, with my knowledge and backing and Linux and stuff, another idea would be to make a Android like, of course I'm aware there are other companies like this, but there are always other companies. You cannot say don't try this, don't do this because there are other companies. You can always, with better marketing, support, execution, better ideas, better whatever, you can always make the same idea successful, even though there are 10, 20 or 100 competing companies. Is ExactScan the only scan software? No. But is this an amazing and outstanding scan software for quite some things? Yes, I will not say our software is the most amazing For supermarket scanners I call cheap entry-level scanners that barely work. No, our software will not make barely working supermarket $99 crap scanners work better. No. Will our software crash? Our exact scan, will it maybe crash with some really crappy driver where the driver is crashing? Yes, if your driver is crashing right now, one idea that I have in my mind already is running those bloody drivers in a sandbox. Could we theoretically do this? Yes, maybe. Are we currently do this? No. So our exact scan could be even more amazing running third-party drivers in a bloody sandbox to prevent exact scan from crashing from unstable third-party drivers. Do I currently do this? No, because no customer is asking me for this. So of course I will not say exact scan is perfect, but because I, as a lead developer, inventor and lead developer and manager and company founder, maybe I should say our exact scan is perfect. No, I'm aware we have a to-do list of 100 wish list points of 100 things that we know we could do better, like running third-party drivers in a sandbox. However, do we currently invest into this? No, because users don't ask for this, and it is not so often that this happens. Does it happen with cheap scanners? Yes, cheap scanners with crappy drivers made by developers who cannot program somewhere in maybe outsourced companies somewhere in the world. Will it crash? Yes. Is our exact scan for those scanners? No, it is not for those scanners. Our exact scan will work with third-party scanners if the driver is good enough, but if not, then that's not our problem. We have other challenges and stuff. And so exact scan is of course amazing for the built-in drivers that work amazingly with this more quality PC scanners, and there's always something to make better. I only say this because yes, there is competing software. Nonetheless, we sell our exact scan successfully enough on Mac and now also Windows for the other part. Sometimes even a Linux project, but right now we do not pursue Linux projects that much because we are very well aware of the support challenges with 100 if not thousands distributions. And yes, if we have projects in Russia, then they come there with their Russian federal Astro or Red something, whatever Linux that was. Yeah, one was Astro and one was Red Flag, whatever. Maybe this was a Chinese one. You get the idea. And then we have challenges even supporting some Russian homebrew made Astro Linux for whatever random reasons. This is why we not actively support and pursue marketing-wise exact scan for Linux. Even somewhere in the YouTube comments sent me some problem with exact scan. Yes, that was even an old build of exact scan because we are not even linking the latest build of exact scan for Linux because we don't really care so much about exact scan for Linux right now. It's just that we have it in theory, and in theory we could have potentially projects there in Brazil and Russia and maybe China and things like this. Long story short, what I wanted to say, yes, there is competing scan software and yet we sell our scan software. Is there competing mobile software? Yes, but maybe if we make a completely outstanding Android for a couple of handsets that are good quality, maybe we could. But the problem is even then, even if we make an Android that is completely polished, completely vanilla, completely stable, with a super amazing kernel abstraction stuff for the bloody binary-only vendor 3D drivers, we would probably still not be able to sell it to vendors like Huawei and or however they're pronounced, I always forget, and Samsung and stuff and Sony, because I'm very well aware Samsung will not license or pay us for support for an amazing Android because they have their own stuff. So even then, if we do this, as I made already the experience a decade ago, not being able to sell mobile software to vendors, they want to have their own and not pay us any. So from this perspective, if we would want to pursue this idea, which I'm still only less than 50%. So you see, I have these ideas, I could potentially maybe do this, plenty of options on the table. Will I do this today? No. Tomorrow maybe. But yes, we could do some amazing, maybe with Linux kernel, maybe not, some amazingly polished, keep it stupid, minimal, without all the bloody video startup animation and all the Siri integration. Does someone want Siri? No. If someone wants to have some speech, so if we would make some really nice graphical Unix kind of thing with Linux or with our own microkernel, doesn't matter, with whatever, or even Dragonfly, Beastie, whatever, for whatever reasons. Let's say we take Linux, doesn't even matter at all. If we make a completely super user-friendly, nice, amazing thing, I would keep it stupid simple without all this speech assistant nonsense. If someone, I see rarely people using it, and I would rather have a stable, graphical, super nice, simple UI without these notifications. I don't need a Mac OS that I install and then gives me notifications. Bing, bing, don't forget to subscribe to Apple News. Bing, bing, don't forget to load iTunes and test your 3 months. I think, in my opinion, this is where you see Apple is going away from the initial track record of making outstanding and user-friendly software and trying to sell you each of their latest non-innovative marketing bullshit to extract the most money out of you. And I would not, like the Samsung you have seen in the earlier live stream I started, and you get notifications. At least, actually, I have to say, Samsung did not yet try to sell me a abonnement for news or music subscription, only other random nonsense notifications. But yes, we could do this. The only problem is that I'm currently not pursuing this. It will be differently stressful work. Obviously, I would only probably pursue this route if we make this a venture capital thing with some billions of investments. Obviously, you need to have a team of 10 initial, at least probably, people for this to support, develop, support marketing and whatnot. And then probably some well thought through business strategy. Maybe the question is also to make this a viable like Ubuntu. You probably would need to have some kind of subscription. Even if you have this open source, to have this is open source, you can read the source, but for best integration, you certainly need to use this pre-built stuff here from us for all the latest and greatest integration and binary compatibility, smoothness, and then probably you can only do this with some subscription model to get security updates and general feature updates with the subscription model. Otherwise, it makes no sense to fund a new company for such kind of amazing non-peak bug UI Unix kind of development. And let's see what other comments, slightly going off topic here. Mac OS for the PS3 is in the audience. And yeah, the problem with this is, of course, that it's a little bit outdated. I could not even live stream from the PS3 because you see here for that we live stream from the Mac Mini, which, by the way, I have not shown. The Mac Mini does not have hardware peak bugs, but then again, we have not yet used it too much. Maybe it will develop more peak bugs, whatever problem. But then again, this is a quad-core iMac, not iMac, Mac Mini without NVIDIA GPU. So maybe only the NVIDIA GPU is prone to ball grid array impurities and more thermal throttling. But obviously the Mac Mini is thermal throttling because all Apple products are probably thermal throttling. And let's see, what did we had in the audience? That was a wish for graphical Unix that was stable and GUI polished as Mac OS. Yes, this, as I responded this, I really have this idea. And this is also why in the long term, if you do not get a subscription, and I understand people are not very comfortable with a subscription model, although the operating systems, Windows is also moving into this endless Windows 10 update cycle that I find a little bit strange. I wonder how how Microsoft wants to sustain a business with this endless Windows 10 update cycle. And if they maybe switch to a subscription model, that would be similar. But on the other hand, if you ask for a nicely polished, professionally supported operating system, how else would you want to finance this in a stable, reliable way, if not subscription model? And I would find this fair. You could subscription, you get feature and security updates as long as you subscribe to it for an annual fee of $10 or something. And if you cancel this at any time, you can continue using it. It does not disappear. You just don't get the updates. And maybe even if you want the updates, you can re-enroll to the subscription. I would find this a relatively fair thing, especially if you get really well-polished commercial software. Ultimate C64 boards where SID chips and emulate Amiga stuff. Yes, old Apples will work, but new ones, older Apples will work, but new ones, same as PC, should work by consume die. So with PCs, of course, you see here, even we have here still, can you loosen? We even have here octanes standing, so even they work so much to this needs to die. No, it doesn't. And still works, although actually I have to say the octanes are said to be prone to some high to this compression connectors. This high bandwidth throughput compression connectors are said to be sensitive to dust or so. I heard mine work, thankfully. That would be a real shame if they die, but you probably should not touch them. These compression connectors internally. So much to this stuff. Also maybe failing potentially, also not for me, but maybe this is exaggerated, but probably this IBM compression connectors are a little bit sensitive. So now the live stream is getting too long as usual. If I continue talking about topics left and right and answering here. Yeah, P3 again, the market is not that high, and then it's a little bit too hacky. And again, you can't, even if with Perfect 3D, you can't even live stream to YouTube because lack of hardware coding there. Venture capital for something like that in Germany. Yeah, this is also the problem, Gregor Anders. Exact Code is funded privately. We actually went to some state program support stuff, and then only the bank is approving this, and then the bank wants to sell their own program and not some state supported startup financing thing that was even a decade ago. But this kind of thing I would not look for investments in Germany. I would look for international investments, but then you probably are forced to open it in America for the international venture capital nonsense. But whatever, this is why right now we have here fun with YouTube and hope for more than $3 a day in the long term, because this would also allow us for a potentially growing team of open source development and support, and not only open source, but in general vintage and tinkering, repair and soldering, DIY, do-it-yourself builds of whatever with PCBs and microcontrollers and whatnot. And regarding your code Linux, it's in regards to your code and Linux versions, there's something here, Flatpak. One thing I was not the most impressed with, by the way, one of those bundles also, there is Flatpak and what's this other, Snap or something, and one of those actually bundles all the libraries. I don't like this too much, so if one of those for sandboxing and compatibility reasons includes, then if you link to glibc and such, it includes all the shared libraries, then I'm not the greatest fan of this. But I would, I need to research if this would be those, and first proposed by Leonard Pettering, then with of systemd fame, then I'm already wondering if it's so. The other way is that the stuff is more binary compatible. What we do in ExactScan, we link ExactScan to an older version of glibc and older versions of all the stuff, not to have all of this stuff shipped and then rely on binary compatibility. If, by the way, with macOS or Windows you compile this once and can run this usually quite forever, it's only that on the open source Linux side that they break stuff more often than not. Normally, if you link something with glibc from yesteryear, you can still run this for many years in the future. It is only that the API and ABI accidentally breaks and changes and stuff like this. And of course, the other thing is UClibc, Musel, diet-libc, you name it. Of course, if you link, so our ExactScan is linked to older versions of glibc, that they still continue to work with even newer glibc versions. Usually this worked quite well so far. And if we would want to change this, if, for example, someone has a Musel-based system, which is of course right now rare, but for that case you would actually have to ship your glibc, then it's of course not very nice. Makes also the software very, very huge. Remember, when you download like this Chromium, or is it Chromium? Wait, Electron-based stuff. If you download there, is there even this? What is a streaming service? Was it Flatter, or wait a second, Flatter or something? Oh, no, quite. It was Tidal. And this download, I've not checked if they have Linux, but if they have Linux, at least for Mac they had. Einloggen, where is even download? I don't want to download, I don't want to log in, I want to download, at least for Mac and maybe Windows. Here's a download, let's see, do they have okay, web player? So, but there you see this stuff is unfortunately Electron based and super huge, by the way, let's try. And then you have, of course, the whole browser, whole Chromium downloaded. It's of course also not the future of app development that each and every desktop app is shipping in own browser. Complete crazy. It takes service and maintenance wise. You have seen me compiling Rust and Firefox for hours. I would not want to ship an exact scan. Our exact scan code base is still some 100,000 lines of code. It compiles in some 10 minutes or something. Probably if you build it from scratch on macOS with universal binary for, if you still wouldn't want to support 32-bit for vintage reasons, nostalgic reasons. And our exact scan app is, I think, compressed download 18, 19 megabyte. And this is of course a reasonable size for rich desktop application, but each app downloading a browser is of course crazy. But if we would make our own Linux, we would just, not Linux, make our own UI Unix kind of thing, maybe even long-term with a microkernel. Maybe we talk microkernel, another live stream. For more, there's ideas there. There's nothing wrong like keeping ABI compatibility like Windows has, so that the applications work for decades. It is really said that the fragmentation of Linux distribution does not have allowed for this. Also, then this is the next thing. Unfortunately, Linux distributions in recent years have made it much worse with systemd and such. Previously, there was mostly System 5, this 5 init. Now, of course, it became a completely fragmented nightmare with some distributions using systemd. Ours, of course, not, because don't need another kernel inside another kernel of another kernel, and I prefer one tool for a job and not this one huge monolithic stuff with integrated DHCP server and whatnot. And yeah, now it is even more fragmented, and then the next fragmentation will be Xorg versus Wayland and other stuff. So yeah, somehow not the most amazing landscape there. A little bit sad even for myself. Of course, with T2 we contribute to the fragmentation, but at least we allow to compile all the options. We allow to compile Xorg or Wayland or glibc or Musel, just that we are a source distribution from embedded systems, mostly anyway right now. And let's see, what do we have? My Linux experience comments in the audience. Most worst problem with packages as too new and too old with packages X or Y. Broken system more than once trying to update Linux. Yeah, this is really unfortunate, but that's the way it seems we are going forward. Yeah, this is also why I make this video. I wanted even already a year ago make a video about this title nonsense. Not only is the download huge, this huge thing based on a browser cannot even play gapless. I wanted to capture to minidisc some songs. Of course, they don't support this in the end user license agreement, but whatsoever. I paid German I paid here this fees on minidiscs, some good 5 or so, whatever this was, euro on this minidiscs for being able to make a private copy. This general simplified license stuff there here in Germany on this raw media. And if I already pay there to be allowed to make private copies, I'm sure make use out of this. And I was surprised that on macOS with this 80 megabyte download with the whole browser, it was not even possible to play gapless. So much to our, even a 386 is able to play gapless WAV files, and in 2018, last year, this title was not able to play gapless for a seamless copy, one-to-one digital copy to a minidisc. Of course, they don't want to support this. They even rule this out in the end user license agreement. But nonetheless, if you listen to this high-priced digital, higher quality streaming stuff, then I would expect to be able to listen to a whole album without gaps. If you make a digital copy or not, it would be, I find it really annoying. You listen to an album to record, and between the songs you have some gap. If you listen with some volume on some quality speakers and between each song you have some gap, certainly that is not for me. And this is not the experience I want to have in 2019, when my parents in 1979 had a better experience on their record player, on either their vinyl or reel-to-reel. You can look up these videos of mine I made about this. And then the experience with Electron apps in 2018 or 19 is worse than that. Thank you very much. Don't need an overpriced Mac for that. So one thing I like macOS more than Linux is comments in the audience. There are not things like those package problems. Yeah, but I don't like on macOS is that third-party software, of course not ours, our amazing exact scan software. If you want to do us a favor and recommend our software to your friends and families for scanning and text recognition and PDF compression. Wait a second, pressed the wrong button, wanted to nearly cancel the stream here. What I don't like in macOS is, what I would do different is that software can install stuff all over the place for the last decade or two, since Next Step in 1995 or so, and Apple only a little bit made this restricted with the sandbox stuff and permission stuff recently, which still is only avoiding this a little bit. What I would do is somehow sandbox and track everything, so that if you install something, I would even not make there this stupid modal dialog like bing bing, the software wants to install something. No, this is annoying. Let the software install wherever. And by the way, I would make it the Mac software model that everything is in this directory kind of packages. For those who do not know this, and by the way, I should really end the stream now and make this another stream. For those who do not know this, app software come in this bundles. It's a normal directory where all the files are in there. I like this very much. You can drag and drop it wherever and run and start it from wherever. It's super nice. I would even make this the default stuff, the default distribution format. Of course, supporting some App Store for all the usability, ease, but not enforce it like App Store, for example, from us. Yes, if they want to, but not limit others if they want to install their own software from wherever. No problem with that. But if you install something, not only not to have to install something, just have this bundles that run from wherever. And if something installs somewhere, track it like some Linux package manager, and because this is also a little bit unclean in Windows, and have a real rollback and deinstall and not leaving files anywhere. Maybe even design the system so that it's not even possible or necessary to install stuff all over, because that was the thing on macOS until recently. And even, for example, if you, this is why I cannot recommend for document scanning with our exact scan stuff, I cannot recommend some vendor software, because some vendor software, like, you know, this Xerox and Kodak stuff or whatever, not to call it a specific brand out here, or other cheap no-name stuff, usually clutters your Mac. This is not very nice. Our exact scan is not doing this. Our exact scan is just one bundle, not installing something anywhere, everything running like it was intended by Steve Jobs. May he rest in peace. And so our exact scan is completely clean, not installing everything, totally recommended, and many other third-party software is not as clean, and I don't like this. So some of those vendor drivers install stuff all over that is completely ugly, like kernel extensions and whatnot. Not recommended, to completely clusterfuck. Some not very nicely maintained vendors even enforce you to disable this recent built-in system integrity protection. So for some other competing vendors, you need to permanently disable your system integrity protection. Of course, also not something, not that I'm the greatest fan of this system integrity protection, but if you have already have this, not the most amazing thing to turn it off. What else do we have here? And then we really switch off this live stream. MorphOS and macOS, but I have to be supported. Lint, PC, Lint, Unix, Ubuntu made work well in regards to software. Download a simple 2500. Yeah, there's also a Greg on this. Some of our competing scanner manufacturers, even some we were historically more than today in negotiations. So we sometimes licensed our software to other scanner vendors, not often, but sometimes. We wish we would have done this more, than I would have been richer by now. And usually what ended up, we even at one point, I can probably say in the meantime, we nearly licensed our software to Kodak. When Kodak went, this is also, we negotiated with Kodak for 3 years to disclose more of our company heritage, just for the fun entertainment sake here. And it's true, I hope Kodak cannot sue us here for naming their brand, by the way, not paid advertisement, and only calling out the brand name for correct reference reasons. It's a designated trademark of these companies to have this full disclosure here. And we negotiated with Kodak probably over 3 years or something, even flew there to their European headquarters in Stuttgart many years ago, nearly 10 years ago. And then we negotiate with Kodak 3 years, then finally want to license our Mac software, and then they nearly want to sign this. They nearly signed this. They even called 5 conference calls for the bloody final signature, and then they go bankrupt. Such a waste of time always. And this is why I avoid working with big companies. I also said it already, I was already in Apple's conference room for not yet disclosed reasons. Not sure when this NDA expires. Maybe I should look into this NDA. Not that we would have followed on with what we discussed there, but nonetheless nice stories. And this is why we ended up here on YouTube, entertaining you and building a new business for financing crazy stuff here. And so it is. You negotiate for 3 years, put all the efforts, you make demo stuff. And by the way, nothing of this is paid. We make changes, we make Kodak branding, we make a Kodak installer, we factor out all the code only for the Kodak stuff, or other companies for that matter, and then they go in chapter 11 or what it was. And in the meantime, and then companies like this end up having, like you say, 500 megabyte instead of an 18 megabyte exact scan download, 500 megabyte with video tutorials and all this bloody galore that nobody, no sane user ever wants. And by the way, regarding all these video tutorials, first of all, I don't like this video tutorials, and then these video tutorials permanently take half a gigabyte of space on your PC because video tutorials that you never watch, probably not even the first time. And looking at MorphOS, interesting, keep in mind, but good, bad, blah, 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 and you can see websites that what hardware they support. Yeah, so thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you learned something. Probably if you already did not want to buy an Apple machine, you hopefully want to buy an Apple machine less, and I hope we do not get sued by Apple. Have not yet disclosed our NDA content. Probably fair to say that I was there. Besides, this NDA stuff is super old now in the meantime, probably already, I don't know, 5 if not 6 or 7 years old. Nothing went through with this anyway, then probably it's fair enough to say at least that I have photo proof standing outside. They're not even sure. By the way, there is the conference rooms. This was, by the way, before they built the spaceship, so I've not been in the spaceship and I have no intention to go there. And the conference names in the old campus, they had their, what was their Apple. I didn't make a photo there because I did not want it to get thrown out of the building, obviously, being there for a meeting. And I read a book. And by the way, now coming back to this, I earlier said maybe we make a book reading thing here another weekend to have here funny live stream content. Conference names, they have their funny conference names. I have seen 2 conference rooms, and they had there's one conference room name was like where are you or something, the conference like where are we or something, where is this we, and I can confirm that is true. I read this in some book. Where's the conference list of Apple conference room or meeting, and so I can confirm that is true. Meeting room names. What's under Death Star? Most interesting name of big company. This was none of this coolest conference names. And so one conference name was like where are we or something, I think. Something like that. And the other was 1 pixel or something. This is not the right website I'm looking for. And so the other was whatever this was. If I read this book, I read Fish, whatever. Do they even have Apple here? Do they not have Apple? Am I the only one telling such funny stories? Minimum what? Anyway, you get the idea. Maybe on another live stream we disclose. I didn't make a photo proof there because I did not want it to run like an alien being thrown out of the Apple campus from a meeting, making photos of conference room names there. But at least I can confirm they are true. And I think the story goes is, I heard somewhere, someone told me, I think the story of the one conference room of where the conference room designation is like, where are we, or something similar like this. And the designation story of this conference room is like someone didn't know where they are. I think someone called into the conference room and they wanted to join the meeting and they did not know in which company, in which meeting room they were. So they asked someone else in the round there, like, where are we or something. And then they walked and they hang up the telephone and try to find the conference room, where are we or something. And this is, I think something like this was a fun story of how the conference room ended up having that name, and the other conference room was something like Pixel or 1Pixel, or I don't know, something like it. Whatever, Google doesn't find it right now because Google is also not the most amazing anymore, apparently, focusing on other things like unsuccessful projects they can kill. I wish I made a photo. By the way, I can, to end this stream with a proof that I was there, not that people call me here a liar and that I make the shit up. One second, I have one proof that I was there. I hope I have it with me. Maybe I don't have it even. Okay, the other proof I have at home, because I had a sticker, they printed me a sticker, a 10 by 6 centimeter sticker or so, to glue on my shirt or something. I preserved the sticker and glued it on my notebook, but I have this old notebook I have at home. I have only my new notebook here. So then we need to delay this for another live stream, our sticker proof of having been there. Although the sticker has faded already in the meantime after 5 or 6 years or something. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed all the story time today and learned something. And now I can move our peak bug failed G5 under the desk again. Probably should switch it on another day to check that it still works and is not yet completely broken. Maybe even need to service an NV timer, RTC, NVMe battery another day. As usual, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed and learned something. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe. And as usual, leave in the comments what you liked and disliked, what ideas you find feasible or not. If this would be totally top secret ideas, a little bit with the microkernel, I disclosed a little bit of interesting ideas we could do, but a little bit, of course, I have disclose this, but not that this would be the most easy successful idea, but also not the most outstanding. I also have plenty of other ideas that I've not yet talked about here, just some low-hanging fruit ideas that you could make companies about this. And if you want to do this, just go for it. Make a super. There are already 1000 out there. The problem with this is, of course, that we would have been the 1001s, of course, additionally to on top and additionally to our T2 SDE. So yeah, so much to that, wanting to make an amazing Linux, and then there are 1000 and stopping the Linux fragmentation with just another Linux distribution, increasing the fragmentation even more. This is why I also do YouTube videos instead of making a user-friendly desktop Linux distributions, but time will show. And I hope to see you soon for the next videos to come.